Let's get more on this one and bring in Gregory Asmolov, lecturer in global digital politics at King's College in London, joining us by Skype live. Gregory, thank you for being with us. Give us some insight on this one. Why has it taken so long for this issue regarding Telegram to come to a head?
I think that we should recognize that Telegram is not just one of the many messaging platforms. It's a huge, important digital geopolitical actor. And the main question that is raised by this case is not really a question about the balance between freedom and regulation, but it's all about the liability of the platforms and particularly the founders of the platforms for whatever happening as a part of these platforms. So we should question actually if getting Mr. Durov detained, even if we dislike him or his platform, and if trying to charge him is the right approach, or we may consider thinking about introducing new forms of fines, banning the platform or trying to restrict it, but actually putting him under arrest is quite a significant act, which haven't been seen in the past history of regulation of this type of big digital global actors.
Gregory, for years, Telegram has been kind of like the ne'er-do-wells messaging app of choice. Anybody conducting a criminal enterprise would probably use Telegram at some time. Terrorist groups would use Telegram. How has this all gone undetected? How has this been allowed to develop?
I think that on the one hand, we should recognize that Telegram was used by a lot of political activists in authoritarian environments. It is very important for the people of Ukraine to address the Russian aggression. It is very important for different type of very positive causes. But there is also the risk that we have seen that because of this approach of hands-off approach about the regulation, which is a part of the history of any platform that was developed by Mr. Durov, it potentially can be used by a lot of different types of criminals and terrorist organizations. For instance, there are many governments, like, for instance, the government of Israel, that may potentially also want to question Mr. Durov because of the way Hamas is using this platform. At the same time, I don't think that these governments even consider arresting this type of personality because, again, you can think about regulation without trying to arrest the CEO of the platform. So, yes, there are benefits, but there are also some risks. But we should recognize, again, that it's a very important geopolitical actor, and it's not just one of many social messengers.
As you point out, I can list a few of the people whose channels, whose words I read on Telegram. Zelensky, Putin, there's one either side. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya of Belarus, dissident, of course. But also the Wagner Group, following their movements on Telegram. Interesting and quite scary. You mentioned Hamas's use of it as well. But isn't one of the issues that Pavel Durov failed to respond to numerous requests regarding the misuse of Telegram? In a sense, kind of just basically ignoring the law. That's been one of the big issues too, hasn't it?
I think that this case actually sends a message to Telegram that they should have invested more in the development of an institutional capability to address all these queries. So the big difference is not that Telegram ignores or rejects any request for regulation. I assume that they try to engage with some of them, and also there are many requests that are rejected by other platforms as well. But unlike Meta or some other big tech companies, Telegram doesn't have a significant institutional capacity to deal with all these queries. So I think as a follow-up to this situation, we will see actually that Telegram will get the message and start thinking about development institutional capacity to deal with all these requests, because this case is not because of the Telegram was used for criminal activities, but actually, as you mentioned, because Telegram failed to respond to queries about these specific cases.
Indeed, perhaps it should be because it's being used for criminal activities, because that's a very serious part of this whole thing. And some of the charges are repugnant. In terms of the dissemination of child sex abuse images, which is one of those things. It's absolutely unthinkable that this can be allowed to continue. But also, you know, the issues of fraud. I mean, if you use Telegram, you get various, maybe 2 or 3 attempts a day to defraud you in some way, shape, or form, and you usually see them coming because they're very, very awkward and very easy to spot. But nonetheless, it goes on. This is one of the things. Is the fact that Durov based his Telegram business in the UAE rather than, say, somewhere in Europe, because as Emmanuel Macron would have wanted him to do, base it here in Paris, the fact that he chose to put it somewhere else, was he just basically trying to hide from the fact that he would have to tidy up his act, clean up his act, if he put it in Europe?
I think that Durov genuinely believes that Telegram is going to be an important tool if he tries to follow this type of approach, which is handoff approach about regulation. But so the decision to place it in political spaces where he may find himself under less pressure is quite clear and understandable because of his intentions. But I think we also should try to avoid this kind of moral panic about Telegram. Definitely, there are some illegitimate ways of use of Telegram, and they should be condemned and avoided. But I know many people, including myself, who use Telegram on an everyday basis, and I don't see any of these type of attempts to actually manipulate us, or I don't see any forms of phishing that can be allegedly linked to Telegram. So yes, it's there. It can be present on some other platforms. It can be present in more significant way on Telegram in comparison to other platforms, but we should not overestimate the scale of these things. But at the same time, I do think that Telegram should improve the way they communicate with all the authorities. But I don't think that putting Mr. Durov under arrest is the right approach to achieve this goal.
Gregory Asmolov, thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing your point of view. Very balanced it is too on this story, and of course we continue to watch all developments. Pavel Durov, under licence, €5 million bail. He can't leave France. He has a French passport, as we pointed out earlier on, but basically he has to report to a police station twice a week, and we will continue to cover all developments of the story as it happens. Gregory Asmolov from London, thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing your analysis with us here on France 24. Greatly appreciated.